Hey guys, it's Ed with Solomon's Landscape and Design out here on another beautiful day. A little bit sunnier than the last time we were out here. Today I just want to talk a few moments about seed versus sod. A couple of questions have arisen with that. I have a couple clients asking about that. And so we'll kind of discuss that. There's both pros and cons for both seed and sod. We'll talk about seed first of all. Seed, basically you're growing the grass, so you have to baby it, manicure, water it, tend to it, feed it, just basically baby it. The good thing about the advantages of seed is the fact that it is lower cost. The seed doesn't cost as much, and it's very easy to install. It's usually a broadcast spreader spread around. Whether it's a push one, you can have one that you use for your hands, a little hand grind or hand spreader. And so generally speaking, seed is a lot easier. It's a lot more cost effective. The downfall with seed is depending on the size of the area that you have, the amount of bare soil that you have. Generally speaking, seed takes longer to germinate and to come up and fill the area. So it's great if you have small little areas of bare dirt, bare soil. Works really well for that. Unfortunately, if it's a large area, larger than a dining room table, generally speaking, sod is a better option to do for that, because what happens is as the seed's germinating, as it's starting to grow, not only will the seed grow, but weeds will grow with it. And unfortunately, you won't or will not be able to treat the weeds with any type of chemicals or herbicides for a period of time. Usually, typically, depending on the label, I recommend you read the label. Usually they say you can start applying after the third mowing. So that usually equates, depending on the type of grass, anywhere from 1 to 2 months through the growing season that you won't be able to put any herbicide to control the weeds. So you'll have a bunch of weeds coming up through your grass as well. The other problem is it's a little spotty, so it's only going to grow where the seed was planted. So you might have some really dense areas in one section. You go to another section, a couple inches, maybe a foot or a little bit away, might be not a little patchy. So highly recommend that if it's a small area or you're not looking for beauty, instant gratification, instant beauty, that's a possibility. It will end up in the same, you can and will end up with the same results long term. You just have to spend a lot more time up front to get it to look really good. In fact, generally speaking, if you're doing a good sized area, potentially it may take up to a good full 2 to 3 years, depending on the type of grass seed, to really get a good stand from bare dirt. So grass seed, if you have bare dirt areas, is cost effective. It's just going to take several seasons to really fill in at the large area. If it's a small area, it's not as bad. So definitely recommend the seed for small areas. With that said, we'll talk about sod. Sod is probably the quickest and fastest way to get an instant lawn. It's not the most cost effective, but long term, you're not spending the money over a period of time. You're spending it all up front to get it in, and then you don't have to spend as much in the back, because you're not having to go out and reseed. Now you're not having to go and fight the weeds as often or as much with sod. If it's a small area, potentially you could sod it, and of course this cost would be a little bit more than seed, but you can get that filled in really fast. Of course, the biggest downfall of the sod is the cost factor. Large area equates to large sod, lots of sod, and lots of price. So that's the biggest difference. So you're really essentially spending money up front for the sod and less in the back, whereas seed, you're spending less money up front, but you're spending more money in the back end. So which one's right for you? I mean, it really depends. You have to take into consideration the area, the size of the area. You have to take into consideration your budget, what you're wanting to also take into consideration what you're wanting to do with that area. Are you going to spend a lot of time in there? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Do you have, I mean, what is the area going to be used for? So just keep that in mind. There is one more option that's kind of in between sod and seed, plugs. You can also plug in small areas, so small pieces of sod, or sometimes they do sell plugs from some places, but a lot of times it's really just taking a piece of sod and just chopping it up into little pieces. But you can order plugs, and essentially they're just small little round circles, squares. You can make a plug, 2 inches by 2 inches. You can take a piece of sod and cut it up into small sections and plug it that way. And essentially what you can do there is, instead of sodding the whole area, just plug in small sections, maybe leave a little bit of space or room in between, a couple feet between, if you really wanted to save some money, or any space you desire between the sections of plugs, and then you can let it grow together. Now, plugs usually are best done with warm season turf grass, or Bermudas, zoysia grasses, all those creeping grasses, the stuff that's just now starting to turn green, that's coming out of dormancy. We'll do another video on grass types for that, and that way you can kind of get an idea. Whereas plugs don't work so well with the fescues because it's really just going to sit there. It doesn't creep. So your creeping grasses, your Bermudas, zoysias, centipedes, things of that nature can creep. So realistically, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. You still can get to the same results using sod versus seed. The results are the same. Sod, instantaneous results, higher front end costs. Seed, long-term results, potentially 2 to 3 years to get a really good stand of grass, depending on the size of area you're trying to cover. But again, you're spending less on the front end. But then you're spending more to keep it up and get to what the sod would. So I don't know what those costs would be when you break it down over the long term. I've never actually done the calculations. But I mean, you're still probably going to save some money on the seed because you can then come back and reseed and reseed. Just know that it's going to be a much longer term solution to the issue, your problem, whereas the sod is an instantaneous solution. So hope that helps. Small areas, great for seed. Large areas, I'd say sod, but again, just depends on a variety of factors that you want to consider. So thank you very much for your time. Hope this helps. Until next time, we'll see you soon. And if you have any questions, comments, drop them below, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you very much. Have a great day.